following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia Haguesly. What a joy, what an honor, what a privilege to be with you all once again. And the same could be said right here, right now. A joy, an honor, a privilege to talk to a guy right here that I remember back in the day when I was watching the WWF. Yeah, I was obsessed, so obsessed that I not only watched Raw and taped it and then watched it several times during the week, but I had to be there when WWF Metal or Jakked was on TV, when Sunday Night Heat was on TV, and I remember this guy from back in the day. He is the one, he is the only JR Ryder. How are you, bro?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. It was a lovely introduction. Very, very, Howard Finkel would be proud. It's very
Thanks, bro. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's like the feeling that I had when I spoke to your good friend, Scoot Andrews. Can't wait to learn about your time in professional wrestling. First question, as per usual, how did you become a fan of pro wrestling before you got in the business?
Well, when I was a kid, I actually had the privilege of telling Honky Tonk Man this story one day. He almost started crying. When I was a little kid, my brothers would beat me up if they caught me watching wrestling. They really would. They hated it. So the first time I turned on wrestling, I was probably, 12, 13 years old. And it's Jimmy Hart and Honky Tonk Man. And they're talking about how, this Ultimate Warrior came running down at SummerSlam and, beat him up in 30 seconds and took his belt. And it's pulling me in. Right. So then I see Warrior come out at 100 miles an hour and I was just hooked immediately. Jump forward 15, 20 years when I'm in the business, it wasn't Warrior that pulled me in. It was Honky Tonk Man that pulled me in. And I had the pleasure to wrestle him a ton of times on the independents. And we had just so much fun wrestling together. But actually, there's an RF video out there with him where I actually thanked him for that. A little time he got wrestling, he got me hooked on wrestling.
Oh, that's awesome, bro. That's awesome. Honky Tonk Man, definitely a legend in the wrestling business. And speaking of legends in the wrestling business, I know there had to be a point in your time as a fan where you decided this is something that I want to go after. I want to chase this dream. The bug bit you and you knew that you wanted to get involved. I believe you get trained by former Eastern Championship Wrestling television champion Glen Osborne. How did that all come about? And please tell me about your experience getting in the business.
Well, I was actually a musician. Me and my brothers, we used to tour with, Biohazard and Overkill and Type O Negative, and we'd play up in New York all the time. We had a really big band. And my whole dream was to be a rock star. I had no intention of being a wrestler. I weighed like 160 pounds. I'm like 6'2", you know what I mean? I was a skinny beanpole. And, around 93, 94, heavy metal started to fall off the charts, and Pearl Jam came in and everybody wanted to be depressed all the time. So we kind of found ourselves not being able to get booked as much as we used to. And Overkill and them weren't getting booked. So I had to get a job. The last thing I wanted to do. So I wound up getting my CDL license and becoming a beer truck driver. So I was delivering beer. When I started delivering beer, I was 160 pounds. I was a little skinny guy. But a year or so later, now I'm about 200 pounds. I'm carrying kegs. I joined a gym and I got pretty big. I wasn't a bodybuilder, but I was a big guy. So I was actually delivering to a beer distributor in Aston, Pennsylvania. And a guy walked up to me in the parking lot and asked me if I'd be interested. It was actually Nate Hatred. He was in CZW for a while. He trained with us too. God rest his soul. But he's actually the one that came to me and every week would try and get me to go down. And finally, I went down and I got in the room with Glenn, and it was just like second nature to me, So that's how I got into wrestling. It was thanks to Nate Hatred. He pulled me in, and when I met Glen Osborne and Bubba Ray Dudley. I'm sorry, not Bubba Ray. Chubby Dudley, Bay Rag.
Oh, cool, bro.
Liberty All Star Wrestling. That's where it all started. It was right there.
Awesome, bro, man.
It was a dump. It was bad. It was in the back of a gym. Like it's like I think the ceiling was probably like maybe it was a 10-foot ceiling in this place. So if you bumped, you can't really hit your feet on the ceiling. It sucked. But I couldn't have had a better teacher. Glen Osborne is the man.
Oh, that's great, bro. Yeah, Bay Ragney, I consider him a friend now. I interviewed him last year sometime. Great guy. But that's cool. So awesome. So Glenn is, I guess, showing you the ropes and, you know, no pun intended, but eventually it gets to a point where you would have to, you know, perform in your first wrestling match. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
My first match was at a I think it was an elementary school that LAW was doing, and it was me and HD Ryder. They made me JR Ryder. I had this vision. I always loved the Waylon Mercy. Right? I loved the gimmick, right? So I kind of wanted to do that back in the day. I was going to wear white jeans and I was going to wear the shirt that was white. I wanted to do the Waylon Mercy look, and you know, Bray Wyatt actually took it to another level. But that's what that's what JR Ryder was supposed to be. Right, it was supposed to be a Waylon Mercy character, but then they put me in this tag team, the Hell Riders, with Easy Rider. And my first match was against the Lost Boys, and it was at a school for like it was a school for the blind or something. I forget what that was, but like all my friends showed up. Now, my friends are not normal friends. They're real bikers, not fake bikers, like real bikers. So a bunch of maniacs showed up to see my first match and just terrorized the whole audience because they're a bunch of idiots. Like they kind of ruined my first show for me because they were so enthusiastic, but they were all drunk. It was terrible. It was not a good match, but that was my first match. Was against the Lost Boys with HD Ryder.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. All right. That's cool. I like hearing those little nuggets of information. Another match, you know, look, I'm skipping forward very quickly here. I thought this was interesting because it was in my research again, the only time you wrestled at this company. But I could be wrong because the internet is useless sometimes. IWA MidSouth, When Two Sides Go to War is the name of the event. September 4th, 1997. Pitbull number 2 defeats JR Ryder in 5 minutes, 44 seconds. How was your experience in IWA MidSouth?
I'm down there with Charlie Lewis, Derek Domino, and was one of the Lost Boys with us. Somebody else was with us. We drove down there, and it was just actually it was the first time I met David Heath. I think was at that show. Gangrel, who's one of my best friends now. But we didn't gel, me and Pitbull number 2. There was conflicting differences about who was the man at the time. I have much respect for the man, God rest his soul, but it was not a good match. I did not enjoy hardcore wrestling. It's not my thing. Not at all. I'm a sports entertainer, to be honest. I'm not a pro wrestler. I never wanted to be a pro wrestler. I wanted to be a sports entertainer. That's all I ever wanted to be. And to be honest with you, as far as on the indies, not to brag, I might have been the best sports entertainer on the indies, period. Because that's what I trained to be, was the WWE style. And when they were doing those hardcore stuff and beating each other with chairs, I really didn't see the point because all I wanted to do was go like that and make a ton of money. It's really what I wanted to do.
No, I totally get it, bro, because I started pro wrestling. I'm long retired now, I was a weekend warrior. 2010, I was the sports entertainment kind of guy, and my biggest feud was with the guy who was about 400 pounds, and we got more of a reaction than the guys who were trying to have, like, really good wrestling matches. We got more of a reaction just based off, you know, me, this skinny guy who dressed like he was in a hair metal band against this guy who's like 400 pounds. He was called Mike Massive.
Right?
So I totally get it, bro. I bet you got over quite well.
There's less is more. Never wrestle Billy Fox. AJ Styles. Because I'm going to stare at him.
Sorry, bro, you're breaking up a bit there.
So crazy stuff. The gymnast might.
Hey, bro, you still there? Sorry, you broke up a little. You broke up a little bit there.
I'm here. I'm out. I'm back. Where'd you lose me at?
Just as you responded to what I just said. So whatever you just said, if you can repeat that.
I could never out wrestle like a Billy Fives. Like Billy Fives, him, AJ Styles. I mean, they're going to go out there. They're going to put on a freaking clinic of, reversals and all these crazy things. I'm going to go out there and I can hold my own with them. I'm going to be the biggest guy in the match, but I'm also going to be the one all the eyes are on because I'm going to do less is more, right? Like you get just as much out of a punch as you do out of, 48 suplexes over your head has always been my theory. So I always did the less is more approach. But when I would sell something, especially up in WWE for this stuff, about less is more, sports entertainer, and leave healthy. Like I didn't want to dive on my neck and fracture my neck, That was always my philosophy. Less is more.
I understand, bro. Okay, so here we go. Here we begin with me talking a bit about your time in all of these matches that you had in the World Wrestling Federation. The first one that I found in my research, correct me if I'm wrong, August 31st, 1998, Shotgun Saturday Night in the New Haven Coliseum against Dan the Beast 7. How did you like getting in there and tangling with the Beast?
Right, so there's a funny story, there's a backstory here. As you said with Billy Fives, there's always a backstory, right? So, who's a great guy and one of the toughest sons of bitches you ever meet in your life. He, in '97, in Yardville, New Jersey, for an NWA show for Dennis Carluzzo, I was talking to Dan. He liked my look. I turned him down because I didn't want to get punched in the teeth. But I was very flattered. And then ironically enough, jump forward a year, my first match is Dan the Beast Severn in WWE. Now, when they came, Jim Cornette came to me and said, I'm sorry, the best I can do is Dan Severn. I'm like, okay. He knows this is fake, right? Like, it's still Dan Severn. And he did, but Dan Severn really lays it in, man. So when they were calling the match, they asked me what I wanted to do. And I'm like, what can I possibly do? Like, come on. What am I going to drop kick Dan Severn? It's going to no sell it anyway. Just call it in the ring, bro. We'll get through this. But we actually had fun, It wasn't my shining moment, but it was, there's something to be said. That's the first time you walk down that ramp. And honestly, when I got into this, everybody, my family, my friends, my girlfriend, everybody, you're going to get hurt. You're too small. So my whole goal was just that one moment, just to stand in that ring, that one moment, and prove everybody wrong. And I got that right then and there, the New Haven Coliseum, looking up at the arena, thinking, all right, here I am, right before Raw. I made it. And if I never went any further, I would have been okay with that. Luckily for me, they really liked me because I came backstage after getting beat up by Dan Severn. I gave him a big hug and thanked him very much and asked for advice. And they liked me. Sarge liked me, and the rest of them liked me. Gorilla liked me. They all liked me. So I was there for a very long time.
Yes, I noticed. And this is why I was so excited to talk to you, because it's it's not that often that, on these types of shows that there will be, because usually every week it was someone else. And not many people, were repeat performers on this show. It was always just like the local guys, I suppose. But, this is interesting to me and a different perspective on professional wrestling and being in the WWF in some way, shape or form. And I want to tell you about one match that I watched earlier tonight, and you did a bloody good job with this one. I'm telling you, December 28th, 1998, on the 8th episode of WWF Super Astros in the Pepsi Arena in Albany, you faced Giant Silver, who I don't think he wrestled many matches in the company. Big, 7 foot everything of him. Not very experienced, obviously, but did a pretty good job. How was it working with the big man?
I gotta tell you, he was a great guy. He really was a really nice guy. He always traveled with his family. Like, they were always there, and probably because of the language barrier. And I think little Bruno was actually his handler, Harvey Whippleman. But dude, it was fun because I like working with big guys, because I didn't get the opportunity on the independents to do all those big crazy bumps. I mean, because I was always wrestling guys smaller than me. I really enjoyed that one. And leading up to that, before we went out, they didn't think he could do the choke slam because every guy that would take it was scared to jump all the way up for the guy. So they would just take a back bump right out of the gate and it looked terrible. And they were going to kill it off on the poor guy until I took it. And I took it to the moon, you know what I mean? Because again, me and Jeff Hardy, just two stupid idiots landing on our backs as high.
Yeah, no, you definitely went right up for it.
Oh yeah, I got hops, man. I got them gymnastics feet. I would say me, Billy Gunn, and Shelton Benjamin might. There could be an argument who could jump the higher. Billy Gunn will probably win. He's got some hops on him.
And we will talk about Billy a little bit later. I wanted to kind of seg away from this and talk a little bit about, you know, what else you were doing during this time in your career. And I wanted to, because I don't know. So I want to know. I want to learn. What companies would you have considered what you would have called home at the time? Because I know you worked a lot in ECWA, NWA Championship Wrestling America, and Independent Superstars of Professional Wrestling, ISPW. You know, what was like your career like in wrestling in, you know, the indie scene?
Going back then, it was a totally different world, man. Now you got NXT, which everybody thinks, and you might have a few little tiny indies, but you'll never have anything like that core Delaware, Jersey, Pennsylvania group that we had. I mean, you look at the talent. You had Steve Carino, Pat Kenny, and Simon Diamond, Crowbar, Ace Darling, the Misfits, me, Billy Fives would come up, Scoot would come up. I mean, dude, the talent pool was huge. Edge, Christian. I mean, all these guys would come down. We'd all work together. So ISPW certainly was a huge factor in my life. I got my first title there, the ISPW. My second title there, ISPW Championship. I won that there from in a 6-way with Crowbar and a bunch of other guys. But ECWA was the be all end all for all of us. That was the spot to be. It was the biggest indie in the world. They had the Super 8 tournament, which I never was in. The reason I wasn't in it because I was too big, and Kettner didn't want me to lose. So I was undefeated for I think 2 years until I ran into Glen Osborne for the title. But dude, the mix there, me, Cheetah Master, Pat Kenny, Carino, the Mist, dude, it was unbelievable. And it was world renowned. And then as years went on, you know, Kevin Kelly came into the mix, and we created the Connecticut Connection, where we all turned heels, and it was all over the world. Like everybody knew us. It was amazing. It was really amazing. But ECWA would have been my
excellent. So you break up a little bit there. I think waiting for it to iron out.
Yeah, I saw it freeze up a little bit.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right. When we edit this in post-production, we'll cut any time that it freezes, so it's okay. Okay, cool, man. I'm glad to hear all that. I have another question for you, and I was helped with this one from one Billy Fives. He said to ask you about the fact that you have a friend, a good friend named Sean, who is also known as a porn star, the MILF Hunter. And wanted me to ask you about the day that you guys were all out and you got shit-faced and tumbled backwards and then got trampled by a marching band. Is that correct?
Oh, is that what happened now? Okay, so version. Which one would you like to hear? I'll tell you the real story, and then I'll tell you the Billy Fives version. Want to hear that one?
Okay.
We were sitting on the beach, drinking, and Billy and I are splitting the check, right? So we both put our debit cards down, and they bring me mine back, and I sign mine. And him and Sean had gone to the men's room. Well, they're in there a while, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I'm starting to get suspicious. Something's going on, because if you know Billy Fives, like I know Billy Fives, I know somebody's in a fist fight. So I went back there, and I opened the bathroom door, and like I get like pie faced, like he tries to shove me and I don't freaking move. This is Billy Fives. And then I started laughing, and there's this dude there who's just bleeding, like his eyes all split wide open. He's got blood running down his and Fives goes, "Oh shit, it's you." And I started looking. I didn't say a word. I went, You you got blood all over your face. And I just started laughing. I walked out of the room, right? So Billy Fives apparently and Sean got in a fight with some dude in the bathroom, and Billy Fives did what Billy Fives does and beat the guy half to death. And then I just happened to walk in at the end of it. Billy Fives' version, when I opened the door, he pie-faced me. I fell backwards into a wheelbarrow, slid down a ramp into the kitchen where I got up, and then I walked into a bunch of into the Naked Gun, bing, bong, 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 bong. Then I tripped, put my hand on the hot stove, turned around, fell into a cake, fell backwards out the window in another wheelbarrow, then went down a ramp and launched me about 38 feet into the ocean. That's Fives' version of the events that happened. What actually happened is Billy Fives put his hand up and hit a brick wall. I like Billy Fives' story.
Excellent, bro. And I've got another one from him later on that I'll be asking
Now,
you.
let me tell you a better story about Billy Fives. Here's a good one about Billy Fives, I'll tell you. So Billy Fives rides a bicycle. A little ching, ching, ching. And down in Hollywood, Florida, you have like the bike lane on the boardwalk, right? So because Fives is obnoxious, he just keeps going as fast as he can and just yells at people in front of him. So you're going back, this is about a year ago, and he's riding his bicycle, ching, 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 hitting his little bell with his little tassels hanging on his handlebars, ching, 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 get out of the bike lane. And he went through a bunch of Puerto Rican guys, and he got right into the middle, and one of them just fucking, boom, laid his ass the fuck out. Right off his bicycle, upside down. His claim is that he got back up and won this fight. Based on the photographic evidence I saw, I'm going to say the 6 Puerto Rican guys won this fight. But again, we'll go with Billy Fives' story.
I love it, bro. I love it. My face is already hurting. All right, back to WWF talk here. March 22nd, 1999. You wrestled the Godfather on Shotgun Saturday Night at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York. I'm guessing every time that they're in New York or Jersey, they're giving you a call. Can you tell me a little bit about like what the process is? Who gives you the phone call? When you get to the arena, what do you do? Where do you wait? Do you go to catering? Do you hang out with the other guys who might be getting picked to work on the night? How does that all work?
All right. So originally, when I first got the call, Steve Carino called me. So I owe all this to Steve Carino. Right? Steve Carino got me my first booking there. And then he most of my matches are dark matches. You don't see them. But Jim Cornette was the booker. And Jim Cornette fucking hated the job, man. He hated it. So he called me one night, and Jimmy and I got along really well. And he was telling me, I got to make 80 phone calls. I got to book all the guys for this. I can do that. And, the salesman in me, I said, well, Jimmy, why don't you give me all the dates and I'll book everybody for you? Hell, you'll do that for me? Absolutely. So boom, that one phrase, I became the booker. So if you wanted to wrestle for WWE up in those areas, you had to go through me. So I became like the freaking king of the indies. you had to kiss my fucking ass. It was one of the best political plays I made in wrestling, but that's what wrestling's all about. Most guys don't understand it. But so I said the right thing at the right time. People ask me how I was on TV so much. Well, I was the book. Surprise. So that's how it went. So generally, though, you get booked. You show up, you go sign in with Tony Gurria, so they know you're there. And then generally, you go put your stuff in the locker room and you go hang out at catering. Everybody would go to catering first. And I got to tell you, I had watched guys go in and not listen to me. I said, shake everyone's hand, say hello to everyone, starting with the veterans, right? Always the veterans first. So the guys that listened to me, and then one guy particular listened to me after I had warned him 3 times to stop being an asshole. He just was too comfortable, and I watched him break his heart. So it was a pretty tough world back then. But I played it correctly, and I made a lot of friends for life out of it, a lot of respect.
Right. If you could go back just slightly, because you did break up a little bit there, as you were telling me about telling the guys about shaking everyone's hand and going to the veterans first. Could you just repeat that little bit for me?
Yeah, well, when you get there, like I would tell the guys, go put your bags in there, say hello to the veterans first. Always, if there's a veteran standing there, you shake his hand first, and not this ridiculous little sissy handshake that everyone wanted to use. I've never understood this, because if you shook my hand like that, I'd punch you right in the mouth. You know what I mean? If Brad goes shaking your hand, he'll tear your arm off. Shake his fucking hand. I would always go to those guys first. I'd ask for advice. I'd talk to them. Everybody else wanted to talk to the indie guys. I don't want to talk to the indie guys. I want to talk to Pat Patterson. I want to talk to Vince. I want to talk to Hunter. I want to talk to The Rock. Everybody else wanted to talk to the guy in the indies. What's he going to do for you? What are you going to learn from this guy? Nothing. So that's just how. And Glen Osborne and Steve Carino, they put that in my head. Make sure you do that. And I always followed those rules. I say, well, I did pretty well. I can't complain. But I never had a problem with anyone up there. Brian Christopher, I didn't like him very much. He was probably the only one up there that I did not like. Other than that, all wonderful experiences.
Awesome, bro. What a revelation. I didn't realize that you ended up becoming the booker for all of the talent in that area.
It was a big secret, but it was like, if you wanted to go at the Northeast, so it was amazing when it happened and people started figuring it out, because we kind of kept it a little bit of a secret, like how popular I became with the independent wrestling. Like, people wanted to call me up just to say hello. Right? I don't even know who you are. It was like, hey, how are you? And like a 2-minute conversation. So anyway, I heard, what can you do for me? Never, what can they do for me? It was like, what can I do for you? But I didn't abuse, I will say, I did not abuse it. Inferno Kid, Danny Jamundo, who was a lifetime friend of mine as well, a great guy. Also another guy that was booked constantly. We made sure he was on all the shows, and he actually he took a developmental deal at one point and went to OVW, which he earned. He really did earn that. And I went to OVW as well, but the money wasn't right for me to stay there. I wasn't going to stay there for. I won't give out what they were making, but it wasn't much.
Yeah.
So I stayed where I was. I was making more than what I was doing, so that's why I didn't go full time.
Fair enough. And now that you say the words, the Inferno Kid, I totally remember the Inferno Kid. So. That might be someone else I need to.
We were very, very good tag team.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. Moving forward, we're still in 1999. It's March 30th. There's a dark match on Shotgun. You take on Julio Sanchez at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. Any story there with that one?
Julio, we know each other for a long time. We traveled together a lot of shows. Nah, man, he was always great to work with. He has the stiffest super kick on planet Earth out of the corner, and he loved doing it to you. I think he botched the freaking. We were gonna do the Steve Austin's old finisher, on the top rope. What do you call it? The stun gun.
Stun gun, yeah.
And it was unnecessary. Just when we were young and stupid, I could have just hit him with an elbow to change the heat. But we're going for the stun gun, and he. As great an athlete as Julio is, for some reason, he decided to windmill it and just made it look like shit. But other than that, he's tremendous to work with. He really is great, man. I don't even know what he's doing now. I gotta find him. I gotta track him down.
Good. Well, I'm glad me asking that question has instigated you maybe catching up with a friend. That's cool.
We'll check Brian Wall. I think he had the wrong name. He should have been called Brian the Brick Wall. His real name is Brian Wall. That should have been his name. Julio Sanchez. Very talented guy.
Excellent, bro. As I alluded to earlier, and I only just found this out like 5 minutes before we started this interview, as I was just doing more searching on the internet. 30th of April, 1999, for ISPW, you wrestle the Iron Sheik. How was it getting in there with him?
Iron Sheik is the funniest human being on planet Earth. I don't think he has enough credit for how funny he actually is. But I'd go to Hawaii with the Iron Sheik too, which is good stories too. He's just a great guy. He's a legend, you know what I mean? He's one of the guys you want to seek out for advice. Maybe in the ring, not so much out of the ring, because he's insane. But he's funny because he'd always have you work his balls. Like, you get in the ring, and I take the balls. And I'm like, the balls? All right, I'm just working his fucking nuts off. And he's just laughing because he thinks it's fucking hilarious. Work his fucking nuts. He can barely walk, but still he's the Iron Sheik, man. He's a lot of fun. We had a lot of mic time with him. It was just a pleasure to be around the guy. Very funny guy. Very funny guy.
Brilliant stuff, bro. Okay, so this was an interesting one that I saw in my research because all the other matches that you'd worked for WWF was like, putting someone over for TV. But this one was a little bit different. And I'm assuming the Julio match might have been because maybe they'll taking a look at Julio. That's just an assumption, though. But this one, 4th of October, 99, a dark match with Glen Osborne at the Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford, New Jersey, during a Jakked taping. Was this maybe a situation where you were being looked at? Every time you did a TV, were they always looking at you? Or, please tell me a little bit about that.
All right, so here's the thing. They're always looking at you, whether you're in the ring or you're on the streets. They're always looking at you. And this is why John Cena did so well. Like, John Cena, when he went to OVW, he lived like an hour and a half away because he was smart enough to distance himself from the drama, right? So if anything happened, he was never involved. So he was the poster boy for, like, this is the guy we want to have representing us, right? So they're always looking at you. Glen Osborne and I, he was my trainer. That was a very special moment for both of us. We didn't know it was coming. We got there and they told us, and Terry Taylor actually put that together because he wanted to see it. And Terry was funny. He knew I was going over, but he kept telling me all day long, I'm going to die. Because if you've ever seen Glen Osborne's a house. Like, he is a monstrous guy. He was like British Bulldog ×2. In fact, at one point, they were going to make him one of the British Bulldogs, and he turned them down 3 times, is my understanding. But working Glen was one of the highlights of my career just because who he is and what he means to me. And it was a real honor working with him. It really was. It was a lot of fun. We had a good time. And
absolutely.
Put me up.
And that's cool. And that would mean something to you, the guy that helped train you, and you guys both get to wrestle each other in the WWF. I mean, that means a hell of a lot. The next thing I was going to bring up, the very next day, actually, you were at the Nassau Coliseum for Sunday Night Heat against The Godfather. I watched this earlier, and I thought it was quite entertaining, the situation with you and the hose at ringside. They distracted you by running their hands up and down your body. I just wanted to know, how was that? How did it feel to get stroked by a bunch of beautiful women? And, what was it like working with Charles?
Well, Charles, first off, another one of the all-time greats I love working with. We had so much fun, and we would just laugh our asses off. Little unknown fact about me: women are my addiction. I think me and Hunter Hearst Helmsley have the same issue. I've never done drugs. I've never smoked weed, but I know a lot of ladies, right? So they pick me for that.
Sorry, bro, you're breaking up a little bit there.
And I think that might have been the night that Droz got hurt, actually, when Droz got injured, wrestling D'Lo. And I don't think our match was supposed to be televised. I think our match, me and Godfather, was originally for Super Astros. And then when it was kind of not a happy ending to the night because our friend got injured. I think that was the night, yeah. Right.
Yeah. Sorry, you broke up a little bit there before when you were talking about your addiction was women. Did you want to just kind of go over that again?
Ric Flair's got nothing on me, brother. I can tell you, and I've sat in rooms, and you've all heard the stories about people taking pills in the wrestling industry. I can honestly, on one hand, I can tell you how many times I smoked weed and have 3 fingers left over, right? In my entire life. I've never done cocaine. I don't take pills. I don't do any sort of drug, but women are my addiction. I love women. Love them.
and I completely agree. I know what you're talking about. I know where you're coming from with that one. Also, going back to Billy Fives and him giving me some questions to ask you.
Perfect. He's doing it.
He wants me to ask you about if there's a newspaper article with you coming off a plane in South Africa with the headline "White Devil."
Oh, this is great. So, I'm so mad at myself for this. So I'm not sure what year it was. This was a Dino. As I got off the plane, back then I had my big hair. You're talking a flight. We were on this flight for, I don't know, 20 hours, however long it was. We're all half drunk, getting off the plane, waking up, right? So as I'm coming off, you got Bundy, you got Tony Atlas, Snuka. I mean, you got all these Coco Beware. Well, they're taking pictures of me, all the press there, right? And like everybody's like looking at me like, what's so important about you? Well, the next day, the cover of the paper is me, the greatest picture ever taken of me, by the way. I looked like I weighed 290. I was huge. It says the White Devil has arrived. It's right on the cover of the paper. Now, like an asshole, I left the damn paper. I had the paper on my bag because I didn't want it to get hurt and left the damn thing on my bed. And I never brought it home with me. I would have had it framed on my wall this day. It was awesome. So the paper says I'm the White Devil. Then we go on this radio show there where like they're interviewing the promoter. It wasn't Dino, it was some other guy. And he's like stuttering and stammering. So I pulled the mic from him and I just chairs on. They don't have around Uganda, Africa, right? And they don't have any tattoos in the whole country. So they literally thought I was possessed by the devil. So the first show, they hit my music and I come out the curtain and I used to run to the ring warrior style, right? Like a mixture of warrior, Shawn Michaels, right? The entire audience ran away. You're talking like 8,000 people started running away. Like I hit the brakes. Like, oh, this is bad. So fucking everyone starts running. They're running kids over, trampling each other. They shut the show down about an hour later, 45 minutes later. They restart the show and they bring me out with no music. And I've got armed army guards all the way around me with machine guns. They walk me to the ring and it's Coco Beware. And I get in the ring and the ref goes, all right, you ready? I went, yeah, I'm doing a job in 5 minutes. I'm going home. Bing, spine buster, doing 1, 2, 3. I'm going, get me out of here. And it got worse from there, that trip. It did not get better. That was the first show.
That is incredible. That's incredible. What a crazy life you've lived. Moving forward, I wanted to bring up March. Oh, sorry, you're breaking up there a little bit. Let's wait for. Oh, there we go. I've got you back. Okay. March 3rd, 2000, the Continental Airlines Arena in East Rutherford. You take on VScera in a matchup. You're wearing some new tights in this one, I noticed, and I thought that spin kick he gave you was quite snug. How was it working with the big man?
I had worked him on the Indies a few times, and we said always had fun with this one. Dude, I gotta tell you, a soft guy. None of that ever hit me. That spin kick, which Christian and I were, the whole day when he knew it was coming, he was laughing because he's taken it right in the mouth several times. But a great guy, and he gave me a lot. He really did. He was one of the guys that really embraced me in the locker room and would coach me up and help me. So he really sold a lot of stuff for me, and he was one that started getting the other guys to bump for me. The reason why my tights had changed, Andrew Martin had showed up in ECWA. And we got along great. We really did, Andrew and I. And Andrew looks exactly like me, but he's just gigantic. He was probably 310 and just ripped to shreds. He looked great. So he came to meet ECWA, and I had asked him what they're going to do with his character. And he laughed. He goes, I'm sorry, but they kind of want me to dress like you. I went, what do you mean like me? He goes, yeah, they want me to dress like you. I went, oh, great. So I'll be your imposter. He's like, I guess, I'm sorry. I'm telling you, man. And I liked Andrew Martin a lot. God rest his soul. The minute they put him in that outfit, that black leather outfit, he turned into a totally different guy and was like mad at me, like I was stealing his gimmick. Like, what are you, out of your mind? I've been doing this for 10 years. You've been wrestling for a year and a half, you big prick. So I said, you know what? It's just a pair of tights. I don't care. So I got the Flames. in and around this time, it had been said to me and Glen Osborne that we were potentially going to be the new Brood because Edge and Christian were breaking up. That had been mentioned to us. So that was part of where those tights were initiated from. It was part of that, was to prepare for the new Brood. And then they decided to go with the Hardys as opposed to me and Glen, which I think Michael P.S. Hayes did, but I'm not sure.
Wow.
I've heard conflicting stories, but there's just rumors.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. It's the first time I've heard that. Really cool. I love it. I love learning things like that. Awesome. Another matchup I'm bringing up, again, another one. You know, this is kind of where this interview is going. It's just, but like every single time it seems that there's a story. May 1st, 2000, Baltimore, Maryland at the Baltimore Arena. You take on Scott Vick, who many may know as Sick Boy from Raven's Flock in WCW. I watched this match earlier. It's rare to find a dark match, but it felt like there was a bit of miscommunication out there.
So prior to that match, you remember the Dups, the Dup brothers, the
Dups, yeah.
There's a tag team. Great guys. And they came to me because they saw me wrestle Scott Vick. They said, he's going to blow every spot. He's the worst. I'm like, he can't be that bad. They're like, dude, he's the worst. I was like, all right, man, he blew everything. Like, dude, he went for a baseball slide on me when he was supposed to duck a clothesline. Like, dude, he just nonstop. Had I been an asshole, I should have. If it was Billy Fives would have lumped him the fuck up. And it crossed my mind. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hurt that kid for making a mistake. But, man, dude, he made me look like shit, which is what really pissed me off. You know, he made me look like the fuck I was doing. But he just was a spot blower, notoriously. Couldn't remember a hip toss. It was bad. Please never watch that again.
I don't plan to watch it again, no.
Well, as I said, they can't all be gold, right?
That's it, bro. And 9 times out of 10, you're hitting it out of the park as far as I'm concerned. I watched every single one of these matches that I'm mentioning earlier, except for a couple that I couldn't find. But another question I had was, I guess the company are looking at some of your opponents sometimes in these dark matches too, and they're looking for a job. So was it, I mean, they're looking at you as well, but did you kind of feel like it was also a job of yours to help make them look good, to help them get signed? Tell me a little bit about that.
Job. And anyone who goes in there not trying to make their opponent look as good as possible is just a selfish asshole. Like my whole job, I never needed to win. I didn't care if I won because and I'm not kidding you, I got reactions as big as Hunter. I would go out to the ring and the asshole chant would start. These are dark matches. It's dark, but I actually, and not to brag, but I got to a point where I was so popular, like everybody knew me, and I could just stare at the crowd, and I would get the asshole chant. Right? And I would get backstage, and Brooklyn Brawler would start laughing. He'd be like, "What did you do?" I'm like, I'd stare at the one girl in the front row. It was psychology will tell you if you make that girl uncomfortable, all the men around her will get uncomfortable. And these are the things I saw. I would just stare at the one girl and just here it would come. So I didn't need to make the other guy look bad because I got such a good reaction. I didn't care if I ever won. It didn't matter. I was getting all the heat anyway. So when guys go in there and they say, "Oh, I can't bump or I can't do that," they're just selfish assholes. It's not fair for the other guy, the business, or yourself. It's all ego.
Definitely.
It's not fair.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Thank you for the insight there. Very nice. Again, 2nd of October 2000. This is interesting because Test is in the match. It's Test and Albert against yourself and somebody called Vincent Goodnight. I didn't get to find this match anywhere beforehand. It's at the MCI Center in Washington. How did it go going out there with the guy that you apparently ripped off?
We broke up. You froze. Give me a second. There you are. You back? You're froze up.
We're
I didn't hear the whole question.
Oh,
the whole question.
Okay, that's cool, bro. 2nd of October 2000, TNA against JR Ryder and Vincent Goodnight at the MCI Center in Washington. What was it like getting out there and being in the ring with the guy that apparently you ripped off?
yeah. Well, they started calling, by this point, Luna Vachon and VScera had nicknamed me Quiz, right? So there was a consideration of running with Test and Quiz and having his feud with Bob Holly and Crash. And I was all on board. Crash was all on board. I don't know if Bob was or not because he was miserable. But Test wasn't because he knew I would torture him. So I literally would just make fun of Test all day long, deliberately to get under his skin. Like I'd stand next to him and I'd be like, "You're not that big." And like I would just crush his ego. But when we got in the ring, he was all business, and we actually worked really well together. And I made him bump for me. He didn't want to, but I made his ass fucking bump. He wasn't getting away with that bumping. And in that match, I don't know if it was her first. I think it might have been her debut. Was that Trish Stratus's debut?
Oh, it must have been.
I think I was the first person I bumped for Trish Stratus. They never really called the finish they called didn't make any sense. I kept telling them, I'm going to be laying on the ground for the finish. I'm going to be laying on the ground for the finish. I got to chase the room in position. They're like, no, you can't chase Trish. I'm like, well, then I got to run down the apron into the lion's den, look like an idiot. They're like, just get there. Okay. So when you watch the end of the match, you'll see me like run down the apron to Test and Albert to bring me back in. That was because they just wouldn't call the right finishing thing. But dude, I took a boot at the end of that, and it never touched me. If you watch the boot, because they would bring out of the corner of the boot, never touched me. It was perfect timing on mine and Test's part, and we kind of bonded a little bit after that. We laughed about it. But it was actually a very good match. I really enjoyed working with him, and especially Albert. I wrestled Albert, God, a dozen times, and we just had a lot of fun. He would try and throw me as high as he could in the air in the corner. We had a great time. John on Irvin's part. That's good enough. It was a younger guy, and we were helping him out, but a great guy. Still to this day, I'll talk to him every now and then. And he had a couple flubs, but it was decent. It was fun.
Very nice. Again, moving forward, 30th of October 2000, Dean Malenko and Perry Saturn defeat Bob Evans and JR Ryder at the Fleet Center in Boston. How was it working with these guys?
I got to tell you, I don't even remember working.
Oh, really?
Honestly, and every single game, I'm like, I wrestled them. Maybe I did wrestle them. I think, honestly, I don't know if I ever tagged in. I think Bob Evans did a straight job. I don't think I ever got there. I don't even recall wrestling these two. I remember talking to him. Couldn't tell you one thing about the match. Don't even remember it.
Really? Okay.
Every time I'm like, I remember being there. Is that who I worked? It was when they first got there, I guess. And Bob Evans, I think, just went in, did this thing. I might have tagged in for a few minutes, got out. I can tell you, if I did it, I never took a bump. Not that I wouldn't for Dean Malenko or Perry Saturn, but maybe not for Perry Saturn. Dean Malenko, I'd bump all over the world. For Perry Saturn was kind of shall we call him an asshole at the time? I'll call him an asshole at the time. He was a bit of an asshole at the time. Egomaniac who was, this tall. I would have liked to see Perry Saturn and Billy Fives. That'd been a good one. See Billy Fives chew his ass up. Yeah, awesome, I think they put me in that match just to stand in the corner so Bob Evans could go out there and do his comedy spots to get the hell out of the ring.
Right. Well, I have every episode of WWF Jakked or Metal on my hard drive. I'm going to try and seek it out because I couldn't find it earlier. I want to see if this actually did happen, and then I'll send it your way so you can remember that it actually happened.
We should see. It's like when Lex Luger won the WWE title, right?
As we alluded to earlier, you did wrestle Albert, 29th of January 2001 at the Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh. Again, new tights, and also you took a very, very impressive stalling double underhook suplex. How was it?
All right, so I think I was wearing blue, right?
Yeah.
All right, so this is okay. So I was talking to Gangrel, and this is how I actually bonded with the Acolytes, with Bradshaw. Because Bradshaw, notoriously, give him one reason to pick on you and start shit, and he will be relentless forever. But I was back wearing my black outfit, and I had my black tape on, and he walked over to me. I was talking to Gangrel, and he asked me, he said, hey, I said, I know you're working that. We've never really introduced yourselves. He goes, but you're kind of dressed exactly like us. And you know, they got big pentagrams on them and stuff. And he goes, would you mind changing? And I said, you know what, Bradshaw? You're absolutely right, brother. I got no problem changing at all. And he like looked at me like, oh my God. And I went and put on my blue tights. I said, do you mind if I put some blue on? I said, totally fine. Cool. So I did that. And from that moment, like fucking that. They were tremendous. And I did a lot of scenes in bars with those guys. If you go through, you'll see all these scenes where I'm like wearing a hat. I got my hair up. We're getting the shit kicked out of us all the time. But they would try to get me to go to stores all the time. But yeah, that's where the blue tights came from, is because Bradshaw thought I looked too much like the Acolytes, which was odd because I looked exactly like Test, which was my character to begin with. Actually, I think, you know what? Test was wearing the little silver shorts at that point, I think he switched over his outfit. That's why I went back to my other one.
Oh, right. Okay. So you were a part of a lot of those brawls in the pubs, in the bars with the APA, were you?
We did one in Penn State, and I was up there at Penn State. Glen Osborne was booked. I wasn't actually working that day for whatever reason. I don't know if I was hurt or what it was, but they were doing this brawl at the bar at Penn State. I mean, shellac, Michigan. It's like 68-3, or just an ass whooping, right? So it was supposed to be this guy, Rich Myers, right, who was in the scene, and him and Glenn and Jimmy Cicero. And then I went down the bar just to watch it and drink a few beers. But Glen Osborne decided he wasn't going to do this. He was like, I'm not getting beat up by Bradshaw, like, because Glenn's ego is as big as his arms. He goes, I'm not getting beat up in this bar. Not happening. So he backed out of the whole scene, right? So they came to me. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. Let's go. Prior to this freaking nitwit, Rich Myers, all day long is like taking shots at me. Like, I guess he didn't realize that I'm the book. He didn't realize who I, like, maybe he was just stupid and didn't care. All day long, he's taking shots at me. All day. Like, just smart-ass comments. And I don't even know this guy from the Man on the Moon. So as soon as they put me in the scene, who do I walk over to? My buddy Bradshaw. And I tell him, hey, by the way, come here. And he goes, really? I went, yeah. He goes, all right, we got you. So if you watch the Penn State Brawl, I got my hat on, the fight breaks out, you'll see me grab Rich Myers, and I go right up the back of his fucking shirt, and I pull him into me like a shield, and Bradshaw just goes to town, kicking him with the kick. He kicked the shit out of that guy. And I'm behind him on the ground, laughing my balls off, and Bradshaw's just teeing off. Boom, boom. So then afterwards, I think it was Gilbert walked over and goes, what the fuck, man? You used him as a shield? And I'm like, no, it's what they told me to do. I completely shot on the motherfucker. So there you go, Rich Myers. Keep your mouth shut next time, asshole.
Awesome, bro. Want to bring it now to March 5th in, I think it's 2001. You take on the one Billy Gunn at the MCI Center in Washington. You kick out of the Fameasser, which was interesting. How did you like working Billy?
He let me kick out of his finisher.
Yeah.
I was shocked. He let me kick out of the Fameasser. And then when I put me over, I got much respect for the guy, man. He always a gentleman, always a class act, always there for advice, and just a great dude. It's all around. I can't say enough good things about him. And in phenomenal shape. What's he? Like, he's got to be almost 60. He's jacked to the moon. He's ready for the Mystery Olympics.
He can still go. He's still really quick as well.
I got to tell you, I think in his career, he's probably one of the most underrated guys of all time. And I don't know if he ever had a run with the Intercontinental belt, but he definitely should have been in the world title picture. He was that good. He is that good. He really is that good. And he was perfect for the Attitude Era because he was funny as fuck. He's just hilarious guy.
Definitely. I thought this was an interesting one because we had this guy on the show a little while ago. It was a dark match for him. It was Chili Willy from ECW, 12th of June 2001 at the Baltimore Arena. This was a dark match, though. How was it working with him?
Who I believe is an Army veteran.
Yeah.
For his service. I certainly appreciate that. Coldy Willy called me a test one. So if Willy ever bumps, please stop. Much respect.
Sorry, bro.
The match was
You broke up a bit
limited
there.
by his fatness and his shitty ability. So
I lost him. Hopefully when he comes back. Sorry, Luke, this is going to be a bit of an edit. Hopefully when he comes back, it'll be better. It's quite disappointing that he keeps breaking up like that because we're getting some good stuff here. You there, bro?
Where'd you lose me at?
I didn't hear any of that answer for Chili Willy.
Chili Willy, who was a military veteran, I think he was in the Army. Much military service to our country, and I thank him for that. Outside of that, he is a useless sack of. He is never been a good wrestler. He fucked up every spot on planet Earth. He couldn't listen. He couldn't work. He called me. He had the balls to call me a test wannabe. The balls to call me a test wannabe. This is years later, right? So, Chili Willy, I couldn't pick him out of a lineup of one person because no one knows who he is. So, if you ever see him, tell him I told him to go fuck himself. That's my opinion of him. In fact, you know what? Don't even waste one of my go fuck yourselves on him because I don't even know who the fuck he is. He's probably working in retail somewhere where he belongs.
Fair enough, bro. Fair enough. Thank you for the insight. This is what I thought would be quite interesting to ask about because I noticed a lot of these matches that you were getting, it kind of dried up after 2001, which was around the same time that WCW and ECW went out of business. So it appears you didn't get brought back to do anything until about 2003. Did the closing of these two companies affect you in getting booked on these WWF shows because they just had so many people now?
Well, it wasn't that affected. I was going to go to WCW. I actually met with WCW in Philadelphia, and my intention was to go there. I love WWE, don't get me wrong, but I wanted the freaking money. I wasn't making the money I wanted to make. Billy Fives and Scoot were already in the power plant, the WCW, and I was on my way. So I had told, WWE got wind, I'm going. And then frickin' they went out of business. So I think it was Kevin Kelly called me and I was talking to him about it. And like that put a scar on me. Like I wasn't loyal anymore. You follow me? But it wasn't like me being disloyal. Like they weren't loyal to me. I was following the route of the Hardy Boys. Stay loyal, stay here. Don't go to ECW, stay here. From everybody, Michael P.S. Hayes, all just do what you're doing. All of them. So I did what I'm doing, but I never got pushed up to that main route, right? Now, looking back on my career and my time, as I look back at myself, a lot of that's on me. Maybe I took it for granted. Maybe once I got there, I got a little complacent. But still, I think loyalty counts for something. And I had that conversation with Jerry Briscoe. He actually agreed with me that they did overlook me because I think a lot of people thought I was signed up there. Like I'd get invited to I think a lot of people thought I was signed because I was there. I mean, they put me on MTV, gave me my own MTV special. I want to be a WWE superstar. All these things they did for me. I think they really just overlooked me, and I probably approached it wrong. I should have probably gone to Vince directly as opposed to calling Terry Taylor or them at WCW and going there. So I never actually stepped foot in the WCW ring. I met with them in Philadelphia at the Spectrum and had nice conversations with everybody, and it was heading in that direction. But once they went out of business, I mean, look at the influx of talent that came in. It was crazy. Jindrak, O'Hare, I mean, all these guys.
Yeah.
I did wind up going down to OVW. Chris Daniels and I actually went down for a week-long training thing down there. And it went well, but you can see, man, like when you're standing there in OVW and it's Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar, Batista, the Bashams, Nick Dinsmore, Rob Conway. I mean, you're just like, the talent pool was just insane. And then you bring in the WCW guys. You're just up against the freaking behemoth. So it was around that time I started winding it down. I stayed in it for a while, but I saw the writing on the wall. I was getting old.
No, I understand. And you know what? I don't actually blame you for looking for the opportunity with WCW because, hey, you've been doing these shots with the WWF for, 3.5 years at that point. They're still not offering you a contract. There's been ideas here and there. It hasn't come to fruition. After 3.5 years, in an interview like this, it seems like it goes by quite quickly, but it's a very long time. So, I totally understand.
It wasn't that they didn't offer me a contract. They had discussed developmental deals with me, several different people. But they didn't make any money, man. Like, dude, Edge, his first contract was $250 a week. That was his first developmental deal. $250. Then you got guys down there making $500 a week. And listen, if you're a single guy and you want to live like you're in college, all right, cool. But I had a wife and 2 kids. I'm not going to give up what I have here for $500 a week. Like if my wife was a surgeon, sure. But we're just a blue collar family, you know what I mean? So I wasn't about to throw all that away for that. You follow me? Especially looking at the talent pool, which I could compete with, but climb up that ladder. They're all 5 than me, and they're all 7 feet tall. Which when I was the Valley of the Giants, that's what Vince wanted. Nowadays, I would have blown through all of them like nothing.
Definitely, bro. So you do get brought back eventually, and I think in my research, this is the last time you do anything related with the now WWE at that point. March 11th, 2003 at the Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh, a dark match with Australia's own Nathan
WZWA Network, that's the way we play. Good God Almighty. WZWA Network, that's the way we play. Get puppies. WZWA Network, that's the way we play. Get.
The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.